can delay this. It wouldn't look good on April's resume.
Yeah, the woman who's in memory.
Well, now when Dave comes, should I hit him up because he's late for even more?
All right, it's 4 o'clock on Thursday, July 12th, 2018. We have a quorum, so I'll call this meeting of the New Ulm Public Library Board to order. First item is the approval of the agenda. Everyone should have their packets. So I will make a motion to approve the agenda as it's printed here. And I'll entertain a second.
A second?
I have a motion and a second. Any additions? April, we got any other business or anything new?
No additions.
Except for the fact that we do have the, April handed out and emailed a resolution number 2018-24, an updated version of that. So everyone should have that. So, all right, then all in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. And now we'll go on to the approval of the minutes from the June 14th, 2018 meeting. Those are also in the packet and printed out. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to review them. And I will move to approve those minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any edits or corrections that anybody knows of? All right, hearing none, then all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Third item is the June 2018 financial report and summary. April?
That begins on page 9 of the packet. We are 50.14% through 2018, and our budget is approximately 46.68 expended. The underground conduit to the outdoor book drop bunker was repaired and was paid from contractual maintenance building for $255.27. The circuit breaker, which was $758, and exterior handicap button posts for $659 were also repaired in June and will be paid in July. A summer reading program supply expenses are reflected in special events programming. That's probably the biggest change percentage we've had this month. Can you answer any questions on that?
All right, no, so we'll move on then to the librarian's report. And we'll start with the library department activities report and statistics. April.
That begins on page 17. I joined the city's emergency management committee as the library's representative in Chris's place, and I attended the June 21st meeting. If there were a wide-scale emergency, library staff would be asked to man the emergency call center for the city. So we've scheduled training for staff on Friday, August 24th at 8 a.m. at the fire department. This training is something that library staff have gone through in the past. I believe it's been 1 to 2 years. I haven't had the training before, so it's been at least before my time. So
is this for full-time library personnel or part-time or everybody?
Everybody,
Okay.
yep. As of June 26th, we have 858 children registered for the summer reading program. 716 of those registered online and 142 by paper. Most of the paper registrants are preschoolers or they don't live in New Ulm, so they are not already in the system with Park and Rec. And we have more than 125 kids who have read for at least 10 days, so we're hopping over there, especially in our children's department. The Battle of the Books for both for the teens and for tweens are scheduled for August 4th in St. Peter. All of the young people from New Ulm who registered prior to June 1st were accepted, and that includes 5 teens and 8 tweens. We received many donations of equipment for the memory lab. Lisa, our reference librarian, is cataloging those as they come in. She and I are working together to determine the location of the lab in the library as well as what equipment will need to be purchased through the grant. We've received quite a few donations of VCRs and other players, and so we're looking at the supplementary equipment that we might need as well as what kind of PC we'll need for that area. We've been attending monthly webinars with training and time for questions and brainstorming with the memory lab people from the DC library, and we did offer a class on June 14th for patrons to get some tips on how to get started sorting the types of things that they want to keep. The Friends of the Library are participating in the Mankato Barnes & Noble Book Fair program, which will be November 25th through 30th. The Friends receive a percentage of all the sales made to supporters of the New Ulm Public Library during that time period, and library staff provide a program on the start of that week on Sunday, November 25th. So we'll have staff over at the store.
Would that be gift wrapping like they've had before, do you know, or?
We could offer gift wrapping. That was in addition to the program we did last year. Last year we had a kid's Star Wars craft.
Oh, okay, cool.
So that was kind of an addition for us last year. New phones have been installed in all of the city departments, including the library. Our old phones have been phased out, and our main line is 359-8331. Other lines that we had for specific staff members have just been brought into a phone tree under that 8331 number. We've been getting familiar with the phones, and our supervisors attended training on the new system and have been helping to train other staff members.
Are these internet phones, or are they?
I believe so, yeah. There's, the voicemail can be set up to come over email. There's a lot more options with forwarding and transferring and recognition of numbers as they come in. So it's a really nice, robust system. We just have to be comfortable with it. Traverse de Sioux has changed over its internet service provider to Consolidated Communications, which is a significant cost savings for them. John Miller from the TDS office came to perform the cutover on June 26th, and we haven't experienced any issues with it so far. The only thing you'll see is when I have to figure out how to pull the stats from the new system, so those aren't represented in this packet, but I'll have them for you next month, I hope. And then Chris Wiley's last day was on June 15th. We miss her already. The library director position opened externally for applicants on Tuesday.
There was, I got an email from, I can't remember who it is over in the city. They indicated they posted it internally first for 10 days, and then they post externally.
That's right. If we look at our stats for the month, the stats begin on page 22. Our circulation is up in June over the last couple years, and I think this is really due to our summer reading program this year. We have had really good attendance at our programs. One thing we're doing differently is we're not requiring registration for those programs, so I think people are more free to kind of come and go. Some programs we have a lot of people and we just roll with it. Sometimes we have less, but I think we're getting really good response because people can come last minute if they want to, which is great. And that's reflected in our other stats here, like our door count. But I would think that our wireless stats would be up slightly too, but again, that's a number we'll have to wait for next month. Any questions on stats or librarian's report?
All right, now let's move on to programming then.
All
April.
right. For adult programming, we are taking it easy for the summer. We do have upcoming programs. On July 26th, we have, it was originally Family Film Night, but in order to schedule our memory lab with the class leader that night, we are moving that to a memory lab program instead, and that will be preserving your digital memories. So that's on Thursday, July 26th at 6:30. We have our needlework group that's continuing to meet on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. They meet from 9:30 a.m. and can go to 12:30. People can come and go as they please. I've also been scheduling the U.S. Dakota War Commemoration Week events in partnership with the Brown County Historical Society. Those events will take place August 22nd through 26th, and they have been finalized, and we're advertising those now. We've got a lot of children's programs coming up. We have drumming group on Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. Those will meet through the end of summer reading program, so on July 17th, July 24th, and July 31st. We have digital outdoor photography Wednesday, July 18th at 1 p.m., and that's in Riverside Park. Scott Kadelka from the DNR will be leading that for us. On Thursdays, we have rock painting on July 19th and July 26th at 1 p.m. at the library. And then we wrap up our summer reading program on Wednesday, August 1st at 6:30 p.m. with the Science of Sound. Science teacher Peter Johnson will lead this for us, and kids will have a chance to do experiments with laser beams, vacuums, and sound frequency. And that's a hands-on program intended for families.
All right, any questions on programming? Okay, then we'll go to the staffing update.
And I did cover that briefly already, just that the library director search was opened this week to external applicants.
Okay. Then we'll move on to the landscaping update.
Landscaping around the Wanda Gog statue was completed on July 2nd. We thank all the volunteers, the Wanda Gog Monument Committee, River Creek Nursery, the New Ulm Foundation, all of the volunteers who came and helped plant the area. We're really grateful, and the library looks great out there. And we've got volunteers in place to come water as needed and have a setup for them to use the equipment that they need at the library. So we're really enjoying the new landscaping. We have a call out for hostas in the other planter, and I have a few people who have contacted me, so I'm just coordinating when we can have those brought to the library and actually planted.
So who will be planting them? Would the nursery group be planting them, or?
It would be volunteers. As people have been letting me know they would like to donate the hostas, I've been asking if they would like to volunteer to plant as well.
Oh, okay.
And so it would be those volunteers as well as volunteers from the Monument Committee who would help us plant those.
Okay, great.
I was part of the group that planted the garden, and that choice of flowers and greenery is perfect, I think, for that spot. And I just wanted to say, too, that River Creek Nursery was fabulous. They worked until the end and helped just manually, not only dropped off the flowers, but they had the carts and the tools, and it was a great group. And as soon as we got a pollinator plant in there, a butterfly came and sat. It was a special day. It was fun.
Yeah, I'd like to add too that I think it looks really, really nice out there in front now, so much better than it has in the past, and I just hope it
Yes.
continues.
Thank you.
All right, then we'll move on to the building maintenance update.
I did cover this a little bit in our financial update. The circuit breaker and the handicap post that we discussed last time that all kind of stemmed from the sidewalk replaced back in the back of the library. Those things have been fixed. We're just waiting for invoices for them. So we're in good shape after that project.
And then the last of the librarians report, the Brown County Library Board update.
The Brown County Commissioners have set the date for their meeting with us, their budget meeting, and that is August 20th at 1:45. That's a Monday, and that'll be on the second floor of the Brown County Courthouse. Andy Kelton from the Sleepy Eye Library is leading that discussion with the Brown County Commissioners for us on behalf of the Brown County Libraries, and we plan to request a 5% increase in funding. So if you would like to come show your support of that request, that
Go over
is,
the date and time again?
yep, that's August 20th, a Monday at 1:45 p.m. on the second floor of the Brown County Courthouse.
At 1 PM, huh?
1:45 p.m.
1:45.
If I could just add, April, last year's meeting was a packed room, and it would be great to have that attendance again this year. So if you're able to attend that meeting, please do so.
Thanks, Carl. All right, anything else then on the librarians report?
No.
All right, we'll move on to the action items. We got 3 of them today. First one starts on page 25 of your packet. It's resolution number 2018-20, the second reading and adoption approving updates to the gifts policy. The library's policy related to donations and memorials was last updated in 2003. Attached is the draft of the updated policy with deleted material and added material noted. These changes are recommended by the library director and have been approved by the city attorney. Major changes are as follows. Number 1, changing the name of the policy from donation and memorial fund acceptance policies to gifts policy for brevity. Number 2, addition of information drawn directly from the city charter for clarification. Number 3, clarification that undesignated cash gifts will be deposited in the donations miscellaneous account, which is the current practice. Number 4, deletion of the memorial funds section for simplification. Number 5, clarification of recognition and evaluation processes. And number 6, updated receipt forms to reflect current practice. And then after the second reading and approval by the library board, the policy will go into effect immediately. So those are the major items that are being changed. I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading of the new policy.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. So all in favor of waiving the reading, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. So then, I will entertain a motion to approve the updates to the gifts policy.
I will make a motion to approve the updates to the gifts policy.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for approving the updates to the gift policy. Any further discussion, clarifications?
One question on that, was there any discussion on it at all? On anything like this? Are you aware of? When it was presented, you went over it with the city attorney and all that?
I don't believe that there was any major discussion on it. I don't think that I saw all of the emails between Chris and the city attorney, but from my understanding of what Chris shared with me, there weren't any major concerns with it.
All right. Having no further discussion or questions then, all in favor of approving the updates to gifts policy, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. The next resolution is on page 36. It's resolution number 2018-23. First reading and adoption of approving $1,000 expenditure of donation for purchase of large print books. The library requests $1,000 out of Fund 212 donations and memorials for the purchase of large print books. These funds were donated in June 2018 by the Lions Club of New Ulm and will be expensed as follows. The complete $1,000 will be for large print books. It is expected these funds will be expended by August 2018. Note, in 2010, the New Ulm Public Library Board approved resolution number 2010-10, approving expenditures of donations received as designated or memorial, which states as follows. For all individual donations $500 or more, the library director will request authority within 90 days from the library board to expend these funds for the designated or memorial purposes identified by the donor. So I will entertain a motion to approve $1,000 expenditure of a donation for the purchase of large print books.
So move.
And I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Now we'll move on to the third and final resolution for today, and this is the updated budget numbers that April emailed to us, and or she handed out a packet here prior to the beginning of the meeting. And this is resolution number 2018-24, the approving 2019 preliminary library budget. The attached 2019 preliminary library budget was prepared by the Assistant Library Director for required submission by July 13th, 2018 to the Finance Director. Note that the City Council has set a meeting with the City Manager, Finance Director, and Department Heads for August 21st to discuss the overall city budget. The Assistant Library Director will keep the Library Board informed about decisions affecting the library. The Assistant Library Director has estimated revenue under the categories of charges for services and fines and fees based on previous actual revenue and revenue generated so far in 2018. Based on those figures, slight adjustments have been made. The Assistant Library Director has assumed revenue from the Brown County Board of Commissioners will be increased by 5%, or $740, which is the recommended increase that the Brown County Library Board plans to request at its August 20th meeting. If approved, this increase would bring the total Brown County contribution from $14,800 in 2018 to $15,540 in 2019. The vast majority of revenue comes from taxes general, which will be entered by the City Finance Department and approved by the City Council. The Assistant Library Director has budgeted for a $2,000 decrease in the library fines revenue line due to decreasing circulation and an automatic renewal system, which is likely to be implemented throughout the Traverse des Sioux Library Cooperative in 2018. One expense increase over which the Library Board has control is in cataloging and processing. This is the annual contract for services from Traverse des Sioux Library Cooperative, which is based on the formula that includes all TDS member libraries. New Ulm is being assessed a 6.12% or $1,852 increase for services in 2019. The Assistant Library Director is also recommending the following increases: office supplies, $750, general supplies, $1,000, audiovisual supplies, $2,000, books, $2,000, computer supplies and equipment, $1,500, communications, $200, travel, conferences, and schools, $800, contractual maintenance building, $3,000, contractual maintenance books, $1,000, miscellaneous, $500, and special events programming, $2,000. These increases are due to the increasing cost of supplies and building maintenance, as well as the purchase of computers when the library rolls out the Chromebox public computer stations in 2019. She anticipates a decrease in the contractual maintenance equipment, a negative $4,500 budget line due to the lower management costs of the Chrome public computer stations. The library's primary expense is in the personal services, which includes salaries and insurance, and these line items ultimately are set by the Finance Department. The Finance Director has indicated that an 8.5% increase in salaries regular, a 4.9% increase in salaries part-time seasonal, and a 6.4% increase in insurance group medical should be assumed. The Assistant Library Director made these adjustments accordingly. The Assistant Library Director has budgeted $15,000 in library interior renovation for carpeting replacements in the main library. The revenue to cover this expense would come out of the library's fund balance. Therefore, our 2019 preliminary library revenue shows a 1.5% decrease, or $1,160. Our expenses show a 7.13% increase, or $56,359. This does not include some expenses calculated by the Finance Director, for example, IT, gas, electric, etc. So then below are the changes from the 2018 budget. So with the total revenue of minus $1,160 and total expenditures of plus $71,359. Note, only budget codes with changes are included above. So I will entertain a motion to approve the 2019 preliminary library budget as we've shown here.
Can I ask a question before you
Sure.
want me to wait till the discussion?
No, we can, I think we can go ahead.
It seemed to me that we discussed last month's meeting that we would have before us as well a budget that showed the revenue from fines at $3,500.
Yep.
Is that a part of this
It is.
Yes.
Yep, there's two budgets in here. There's one that's a version that says fines remain, which is showing a $7,000 in library fines in the revenues group. And then there's a second one, fine-free, beginning in 2020, which shows a $3,500 library fine revenue for 2019, which I'm assuming then the assumption would, that would go to zero in 2020.
Right. I did bring the question of discontinuing library fines before the city council at our budget work session. I believe that was June 26th. And they had no comments on that change.
So no arguments either way then, right?
No, nothing.
So if the overall budget increase with the fines remaining at $7,000 would be a 7.2% increase. And if we took the, cut that in half to $3,500, that overall budget increase goes to 7.72% with a net of about almost half a percent.
Well, I would move favorably to propose the fine-free by 2020 option, such that the 2019 budget would show fine revenue at $3,500. I think it's important that we, as a board, move towards the objective of providing, information as a library free to all comers, and that we not lock anybody out because of an inability for them to make a payment of a fine for a book, that they're frozen away from that information. Seems to me we have a lot of programs that we offer at no charge to many patrons, and I think it's important that we don't lock anybody out, especially young people. And I think there's enough anecdotal evidence, even in our community, where this happens to members of the community. So I would be favorable that we would propose that budget option.
Okay, so I have a motion for accepting the fine-free beginning in 2020 version of the budget. Do I have a second?
I don't understand exactly. I wonder if you could explain that to me, and I don't understand what the change is.
Okay, normally what we've been doing is the library fines is basically a revenue generator. We charge people fines for overdue books. And in the past, it's in 2018, the budget was for $9,000. The 2019 budget shows a decrease of $2,000, so it's down to $7,000, which the library expects to draw in for overdue books.
Mm-hmm. I understand that, but
Right.
my question is Carl's amount. How do we get there?
Half the year.
To the 3,500.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The idea was to kind of slowly eliminate fines over
right.
2 years.
Rather than go cold turkey and just eliminate them completely,
I understand.
we would do it over a 2-year period, and we would cut it in half.
And how do we do that? How
That
do we
will have
pick
to
and
be
choose?
That would-
determined.
Yeah, that would be a board discussion on whether you wanted to eliminate fines on children's cards or certain items, or cut
Or
all fine
DVDs
fees
or-
by half, or however you wanted to do that. That'd have to be a board discussion before 2019 begins.
And what, it says in our notes that TDS has a system for doing that? Or it's their suggestion that we do that? Or how is TDS tied into the fine system?
TDS didn't make any suggestion about going fine-free. They could offer us suggestions of how other libraries in TDS have done it. But what they do is they would set our system parameters. So say we decided to eliminate fines on children's cards or something, they could help us set that up.
Okay.
So they're just kind of the computer knowledge
Mhm.
of our system.
And then right now, I think what overdue books are, is it 10 cents a day?
10 cents a day.
So, I mean, an easy way to do it could be just knock that in half and go to 5 cents a day, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And
I'm a little mixed on this too. Stated it in the past, I thought it was a good idea for some people. It just makes you realize, okay, that we got to return things when they're due. And if I do remember Chris saying that when circumstances arise for people who have the inability to do this, it's accepted. Now, Carl, are you afraid that we might scare people away with this in there? Is that the idea? Because Chris has already said in the past that if somebody comes and say, hey, we can't afford this, that she said they will generally make an exception.
Well, a couple things, Dave, and one of them is that forces someone in an awkward situation who may not be comfortable coming in and talking openly about their financial situation.
To admit
The
that.
second thing is it makes it somewhat arbitrary as to who's going to be excused from a fine, and it puts the staff person into kind of a difficult position. So I think, Vince's proposal to cut it in half makes the most sense. You still have the element going forward in 2019 of a fine, but yet we've begun that process of getting to a point zero where we don't have to have staff dealing with folks that sometimes may become uneasy about the adversarial confrontation that may sometimes occur when someone's coming in to talk about fines.
What about the automatic renewal system? How does that play into this?
The automatic renewal system right now, we're a test library, so it's just renewing new Ulm-owned items and items that are eligible for renewal. For instance, we don't currently renew our DVDs, so those are not being automatically renewed right now. So the automatic renewal, under normal library rules, patrons can check out an item, and as long as it doesn't have any holds on it, they can renew it twice. And so the system is automatically doing that for them. So the
Without calling? you're
without
saying?
calling,
Okay.
yeah. So they are getting their due date notification, but the due date notice is also telling them their new due date and that their item has been automatically renewed.
Okay.
And then after that 2 times, then the fines will start to accumulate if
Then
they have
the-
not returned it by then?
That's right. After the 2 renewals, they'd run through to their next due date, and that's when fines would begin.
And
So-
this is not TDS-wide then, this is just New Ulm we're talking about here.
Currently, it is just New Ulm.
Okay.
It's likely that it will be TDS-wide once
Okay.
we get through the test phase.
How long is the test phase?
I don't have an end date, but
We
I
don't
can
know.
certainly bring
I
that to
mean, that
you.
might be a good, that may reduce the amount of fees we're going to get in general, too. It'd be
Right.
interesting to see how this test phase goes, how much that ends up reducing some of our fees as well. Now, granted, it's only New Ulm items, but it's going to help us understand a little bit more as to how those fees will potentially be reduced even within that next 3 months or 6 months, however long that test period is.
Right.
Okay.
And then, once it's approved TDS-wide, we'd have the chance to see how it's affecting us overall, because then it would include all items eligible for renewal within the TDS system.
Then I don't think we should make any proposal for 2020 yet. Maybe we should just hold back and take a look at things, how they
Right.
roll out.
Right now, even though the version is indicating fine-free beginning in 2020, which would indicate, we cut it in half this year, and then the following year, we would evaluate going down to 0. That's not to say that we don't change our mind when we review the budget in 2020.
Yep, okay.
Another point of interest is that, when April indicated in the budget report that we're 50% of the way through the year, library fines so far brought in, we have a $9,000 budget. We're only at 34.5%
Right.
of that. So the trend seems to be that revenue generation by fines is going down anyhow. So, I mean, it could be long-term that, you know, we realize little to no revenue generation from fines anyways. So by preempting that with, you know, getting rid of the fines or at least reducing them, it doesn't seem to be too detrimental overall to the budget. And also, there was some discussion last month about the fact that, you know, we'd be saving supposedly a good chunk of money with switching to the Chromebox as well. So
Right.
there are other ways at which we're kind of making up that loss of revenue.
Well, I sure don't look at this as a revenue stream really at all.
Right.
I just think it's a responsibility, thing. Like I said before, I still remember back when I was a kid, my mother said, book is due, you take it back, if you don't, you pay the fine.
Yeah.
So,
So we're back to the issue then of Carl has made a motion to approve the fine-free version beginning in 2020, which really it's a cutting of the current fines in half.
Is that what he's motioning, though? He's not
Yes.
necessarily motioning
No.
that we're going to minimize it down to
No.
5 cents.
Right, Carl?
No, that's correct. That would be a separate motion because that would have to be something we would determine regarding fees. And, you know, it's kind of a misnomer to say it's a budget to be at zero for 2020. It's a budget for 2019.
Right.
The board would have to act upon.
That's just how April labeled it.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
we could relabel it as just the, you know, fines cut in half,
Mhm.
fine revenue cut in half or whatever. So we have that motion being made. Is there a second? Oh, I'll second it. I don't have a problem with you know, cutting the budget in half next year and kind of using that as a test ground to see how things go. I mean, that's not to say that we couldn't raise it back up in 2020 if we find that it's not as advantageous as we thought, or we could continue at that 0.5% level, you know, half level for a while before we eliminate them, or it may be that we could, you know, eliminate in 2020, but that's not the topic of discussion right now. It's for the cutting the fines in amount in half for the 2019 budget.
The expectation that we will receive half the amount.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Because that's where I'm getting confused with cutting in half. That, to me, is we're looking at it as we're cutting the fines in half, but at this time, all we're saying is that we're expecting that it's going down, and we're anticipating that line number is going to be
Correct.
reduced. Okay.
And even if we cut the fines in half, right now, year-to-date, we're only at 30% of drawing in the amount that we expected for 2018. That's not to say that in 2019, if we cut it to 3,500, that it could come in at only at 2,000, or it could come in at 4,000, depending on you know, the how people have who pay their fine, who get fines and pay their fines. But as April indicated too, that the automatic renewal, you know, given them they have more time to finish a book, it may be that, and the book is automatically renewed, then they can return it fine-free when they are completed with it.
yeah, as long as those are parameters, I have no trouble either. And then I want to add also, I hope we don't go to the point where, okay, we've reached our fine goal here, so now in the future, you don't have to pay. I don't think that's the intent. So if we reach the money that we think we're gonna get, and all of a sudden, I am late with my book, that means you don't just go ahead and tell me, well, you don't have to pay.
No, it'll continue on. I mean, well, if we do enact the fines for next year, there's, you know, people will still be expected to pay it regardless if we've already met that revenue generation or not.
So if we do decrease the revenue expected to 3,500, does the board later want to have a discussion before 2019 about reducing the actual fines, or we're just reducing the expectation of what we'll take in due to the trends we've already seen.
Yeah, we'll have I imagine we'll have a discussion later on how we actually determine, setting that fine reduction. Like you said, we have different options. We can go either by type of borrowing, either DVDs or books or whatever, or we could just cut the amount in half, the fine amount in half, but that's for a later discussion.
Okay.
Right now, it's just we want to get the preliminary budget approved so that you can present it for the city council meeting in August.
Okay.
We all on the same board then?
Well, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
So what we're voting on is reducing the fine income in our budget plan with the expectation that there will be a committee working on this between now and 2019 that will figure out how we'll lose the $3,500 in income. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion? All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve let me get this right here. Approve the 2019 preliminary library budget using the $3,500 in the library fines box. So, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, that's all we have for today. There's nothing else. Then we'll adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Geez, a 40-minute meeting. 40.